Okay, ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention so we could start the program? Good evening, everybody. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to this wonderful event. My name is Richard Berry. Before we start, I want to say thank you to our host and our hostess, to Lizzie and Terrell for opening their home and hosting this beautiful evening. It's truly heartening to see your support and hospitality. We wish you simcha and wonderful occasions in your home, and your home should be a bias, which is mole simcha all the time, hosting tzedakah events and having family simchas as well. Thank you so much for doing this, and welcome to the club of hosts in the Colel Chabad family. So, Libi b'mizrach v'anochi b'sof ma'ariv. My heart is in the east, but I'm standing in the west. This is one of the kinas we say on Tisha B'Av, and from Yehuda Halevi from the Middle Ages, and it rings true today. All of us are preoccupied with what's going on in Eretz Yisrael. We're living here in the West, but our heart and our feelings, everything is in the East. For this past year, as you all will know, every moment, we were closely following the news day and night, in the middle of the night. Our children, our nieces, our nephews, people we know in the army, and those living in different areas throughout, the north, the south, every place in Eretz Yisrael, every hour, every minute, we've been thinking about them and all the Jews and what they're going through in that country. And as a result, unfortunately, of the serious situation that's going on in Eretz Kochenu, I have a deeper appreciation for this 45-year friendship and partnership that I have with my good friend, Rabbi Shalom Duchman. We here and a lot of the people from the original group are still here, Baruch Hashem, tonight. And we were a key group that began with Rabbi Duchman when Colel Chabad was a small, almost unknown institution. We were considered the early investors. We were providing Series 1 financing for Rabbi Duchman and his charity. So just a little history. Colel Chabad was founded by the first Rebbe, and it was in continuous existence now for over 200 years. And back in the 1970s, the Rebbe called Rabbi Duchman into his office, and he wanted Colel Chabad revitalized. And Shalom took the job and did an amazing job. And he met me. My father-in-law was very active in Chabad, was friends with the Rebbe, sat a few seats away from him on the Yomim Noraim. And when Shalom Duchman went to my father-in-law and said, I want you to get involved with this, and he came to my father-in-law and said, help me. My father-in-law said, well, I think it's time for my son-in-law to start getting involved as well. And so I was in charge of raising money for Colel Chabad and actively being involved in this institution. And I remember when we had our first breakfast, I think it was 1978. I was living in Bell Harbor, Queens then. And we had a few people come. We raised a few $1,000s. It was a big simcha. Shalom brought a bottle of vodka from the Rebbe. We had a l'chaim. And Baruch Hashem, this charity took off exponentially. We moved here to the Five Towns. We started a little circle. Many of you were here from the beginning. And just to see all the work that was done, it was just amazing. Everybody here has seen the emails and the updates from Rabbi Duchman over this past year about the incredible work, and it gives us great pride and nachas, all of us, to be part of it. I remember hearing from Rabbi Duchman about his first soup kitchen in Israel. Now there are 23. He slowly spoke about the growth of Colel Chabad, the daycare centers. I remember when there was one. Now there are 18. And then when he began with food packages, it was a few hundred food packages. But now they distribute food packages to over 30,000 families every month. The food cards started with a few thousand, and the numbers are growing and growing and growing. And the chesed that's done on a personal level, I have to say, in addition to the soup kitchens and the food and everything that they do in the daycare centers, I have a close friend, has a son with special needs. He's a victim of cerebral palsy. He's in the Finger Center in Jerusalem, and the care that Shalom and the people there give to this young man is just incredible. And I have to tell you, everybody is treated with dignity, respect, no matter what their religious affiliation is. And this is a chesed beyond chesed. And also, my wife and I, we've been together with Rabbi Duchman in Eretz Yisrael. And one of the highlights I remember was the time that we came to the bar mitzvah that was had every year in Chodesh Nisan. Shalom hosts a bar mitzvah for the Yisomim in Eretz Yisrael. And now with what's going on, I just hope it's not going to be, more and more and more, but it's just heartwarming. The event takes place at the Kotel, and then there's a big party at the Jerusalem Center. And it's watched by everybody. The president, the prime minister come to it. And it's unbelievable how this little organization that started in Crown Heights in a room mushroomed into the amazing organization that it is today. So we gather here every year. It's like an anniversary. And we commit to the coming year and derive nachas from the accomplishments of the past year. Okay, so I'm not going to say any more. I want to have Rabbi Zalman Duchman come up, Rabbi Duchman, Shalom Duchman's son, who's going to speak about what goes on, and then introduce our guest speaker this evening. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Barry. Leirach Yamim v'Shanim Tovos, for many more years in good health. Baruch Hashem, B'Rishus, Avi Moiri, Rabbi Jacobson. Several weeks ago, I met a couple in Florida, and for lunch, I was going to ask them to support a program. And before we start eating, before we sit down, she turns to me, she says, before I came here, I told one of my friends that I'm here to meet you. And my friend asked me, why are you supporting Colel Chabad? They're such a big organization. They do so many things. Why do you have to support them? So this is how my lunch started. It finished a lot better, that I could guarantee you. But it got me thinking, on my way here, I'm coming to a community that are big Balei Tzedakah. From this community, they support Torah and support Eretz Yisrael and support all different moistes. So to tell you guys about tzedakah, was probably from all Yiddish moistes. So many Yiddish moistes are based from this community. So really, I only have to address one narrow thing. One narrow thing is the uniquenesses of Colel Chabad, who we are. What we do, we have the shareholders. Dr. Berry spoke about what we do. We have to introduce to you who we are, and then you'll feel automatically, by default, that you want to be connected to the people, to an organization like Colel Chabad. Colel Chabad follows 4 basic principles. There are 4 uniquenesses. Number 1, it's page number 3 in the shareholders. Number 1 is our founders. We were started by the Alter Rebbe, like Dr. Berry mentioned. Each of the Chabad Rebbes were the Nasi, the leader of Colel Chabad, and we follow the path paved for us by our Rebbes. Number 2 is we help everyone and anyone, across the board, regardless how religious affiliation, political affiliation, we help everyone. Number 3 is leverage. We try with strategic partnerships to take every single dollar and leverage it and see how we could stretch it further. And number 4, that is very unique, the way we do things, is dignity and respect. We view that it is our schus to be able to help these people. It is our obligation to help that. It's not a chesed that we're doing, it's a tzedakah. It's the right thing for us to do in the right way, in the most dignified way possible. whoever here listened to my father's interview on Meaningful People, my father shares a story. Today, our largest project that we have is our food cards project. Over $100 million of support goes through our food cards program directly into the hands of needy people. How did it start? That Moshe Kachlun, that was the minister of social welfare at the time, said he remembers as a child how degrading it was to go to a food bank, to help his mother to get food from a food bank, wait online, how degrading it was. He says, we need a partner that dignity and respect is part of their identity, part of who they are. It's not secondary. It's not how could we do this with dignity and respect, but it's part of their identity. It's part of who they are. And when he came to us, he found that when we met, we knew we had the right partner because of dignity and respect. It took us many years to develop the food card project, because what comes first, the chicken or the egg? First, you could only be used in stores. Stores are only going to accept it if there's people using it. People could only use it if it's accepted in stores. It goes around in circles. But diligently, one supermarket at a time, one city at a time, one community. Most importantly is we wanted to focus on those places in poorer communities in order to build it. It took us many years, and we were able to build a system that reaches over $100 million in the past year. Now, talking about leveraging it. We had the system already in place. Once we had the system in place, October 7th, we were faced with the most horrible tragedy, most horrific event in my lifetime. And Yidden were walking off buses, literally like with nothing in their hands. Even those that were the lucky ones walked off their bus in pajamas and a pair of slippers. They needed to buy basic households. Easily, in a few phone calls, we were able to open up what our cards were exclusively for food, and we were able to open it up for other necessities. So quickly, we were able to leverage our system that we had already in place. Within the first week, over $5 million was handed out in cards directly into the hands of those people from the Gaza envelope. Otfim. Otfim was called Project Otfim. Otfim literally in English translates as envelope, but it doesn't do justice. It means to hug. To hug somebody. Was those communities that were hugging Gaza, the Otfim. But there's a very unique aspect of these cards that was given out right over October 7th. And that brings us to helping everyone and helping everyone and anyone, because it's not only helping everyone and anyone, it's also bringing everyone and anyone together. The ones that handed out the cards were two people. One of them was Mendy Bloy, the director of Colel Chabad of Colel Chabad operations in Israel. He did it together he had a partner. His partner was a guy named Guy Leder. Guy Leder is a left-wing, secular television host in Israel on Channel 13. His program is called Hatzinor. You had a Lubavitcher Chassid with this left-wing Guy Leder going together from hotel to hotel, personally handing out these cards to each of the family members. Guy Leder would go at night and he would raise money using his television program to support the cards that were then being given out. Over 45,000 Israelis donated to this project in the weeks after the weeks after Simchas Torah. This is something where he himself, not only something to at that fracture time, coming after that fracture time, highlighted to everyone, his audience, the unity, the Colel Chabad, including everybody together, everybody and everyone that was being helped, but even more so, it also brought together this aspect of him, and he spoke about it very openly. I was just now in Eretz Yisrael. I met Guy Leder, and he told me that the impact that it made on the people was extraordinary. That he, a secular Israeli, traveled together with this help. Back to the leverage and partnerships. We've been watching, closely the past days and weeks what's happening in the north. And again, we were called upon to leverage our infrastructure in place. The 10 large cities already today have 67 distribution locations that is already stacked with food, with shelf-stable food product in case it'll have to be distributed. It is already there now in the cities in the north, within the 10-15 kilometers of the northern border. Already now we are packing an additional 10,000 boxes to be distributed. Hopefully we won't need it. And if we won't need it, we'll give it out to elderly before Rosh Hashanah. But we already have the system in place. We have 250,000 food trays ready to be filled with fresh food. If God forbid there'll be a outage, something affected with the electric grid or other critical infrastructure. And we already purchased through our Colel store system that we have the ability to purchase for an additional 25,000 boxes. And if Be'ez Hashem, with Hashem's protection, we will not need it, then we will be able to sell it through our store system. Again, leveraging our infrastructure in order to be able to reach much more people. This brings us to our fourth principle, the fourth part of our identity, of our connection to the Rebbeim. My father was appointed by the Rebbe personally. Anyone that knows the Rebbe always worked with an extremely sense of urgency. When the Rebbe came out with a campaign, the campaign had to be done now, immediately. There was no time. Everything by the Rebbe had an extreme sense of urgency. This gives us the ability to work quick, to think quick, to move, to turn around on a dime, to be nimble. That as soon as something happens, we don't have a bureaucracy that moves slowly up and down a supply chain. The day something happens, our people in Israel, we're all a bunch of Chabadniks. We don't know the concept of morning and night. And there's a reason why no one ever gets save the date 6 weeks in advance before this event. The reason for it is because 2 weeks ago there was an event in Deal, and the week before there was something in Eretz Yisrael, and there was here and there. Baruch Hashem, the Rebbe trained his army to be nimble. The Rebbe trained his army to be quick and swift and be able to work quickly. So this is who we are. This is our identity. I just want to share one other thing, what I felt most over the last 10 months. And I have to say that 2 weeks ago we had a program in Israel for high school graduate orphans. For Reb Shlomo for his support for it. I was there. A very emotional event where we had the high school Yesomim, after their year, they get awards for great accomplishments. And one of the things that one of the widows stood up and said is that one thing Colel Chabad gives us is that we never feel alone. We're never alone. We know we always have this connection. The entity, the true entity, what's represented in our name of both Colel and Chabad, Colel's to include Kulanu Yachad, all of us together. Chabad, by definition, is to bring people together. This is the strongest connection that we could have to each other, the strongest connection that we could have to the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, the strongest connection that we could have with the Rabbeim and the Rebbe, etc. So, ladies and gentlemen, Baruch Hashem, Colel Chabad is a very large institution. We do a lot of things. If you want to feel a true connection, And you want to know that every dollar that you give connects you to all of Klal Yisrael. Not only of this generation, but the Rabbeim of the previous generations. You want to know you're helping everyone and anyone across the spectrum in Eretz Yisrael. If you want to feel that experience that your dollar is going to be leveraged 5 to 1, 7 to 1, 10 to 1, and you want to know that you want to feel that everything you're doing is being done in the most dignified manner, in the most respectful manner, your address for your tzedakah should be Colel Chabad. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a very Ladies and gentlemen, very practically, we have swipers right by the entrance, and we have QR codes, and we could, and my father still collects checks, and there's no greater appreciation. My father still appreciates a check more than anything else. I could tell you that, because a check, you give a person a hug. A wire, it doesn't come with a hug. So, but my father still appreciates a check. But if you would like to do a wire or credit card or Bitcoin or NFTs or anything, the most important thing is that each and every one of you should feel it's complicated today. The most important thing is that everybody should feel the connection that you have when you give it. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce, I would say, I was probably from the youngest students of Rabbi Jacobson. Most probably from the youngest students of Rabbi Jacobson was me. And that is because when I was a little boy, I stood right near Rabbi Jacobson by the Rebbe's Fabrengen. And in between the siches, he used to give a short chazara, short synopsis of what the Rebbe spoke about. I was a little boy then, in the Shvil, when Rabbi Jacobson was there by the Rebbe's Fabrengen. So without further ado, a Yid that was zeiche, that to teach millions of Yidden of Teda, Pem, Mapik, Margolius, Hagon, Rabbi Jacobson.
How long do you want this?
I gave him the mic.
Yeah. Oh, excellent.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.